I don't know. I like that QB room. It's young and volatile, but Richardson, Stafford, and then McCarthy and Bryce Young on the QB resurgence with Dave
Ooh,
Canales. I'll
yeah,
take it.
what a fun, what a
Might
funny
suck.
squad.
It might be bad.
I took a Lisa on your heart. I took a Lisa on your heart. Can I Lisa, Lisa Bart? Can I Lisa, Lisa Bart? Can I Lisa, Lisa Bart?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Like we've been chit-chatting about. Got a active draft going right now, and
Yeah,
we double down trades with you today.
yeah,
We've
it was
traded
fun.
up twice, so pretty
Uh,
fun, man. It's just not too bad for a Monday. How about
yeah,
you?
it's been a fun. It kept my attention at work, which was nice.
Yeah,
You need something to keep your focus at work.
I know I'm like stupid work, keeping me busy with work. Not interested.
But no, it's nice. I can confidently say that I've probably made more trades in fantasy with you than any other person. Like,
It's it's because of these
I mean, we're
chats,
in
because of this time we have together.
that's true too. That's true, but also we're in like four leagues together, so it makes it a
Yeah.
little easier.
And we
But
send each other super like fair
hmm
trades.
yeah, I don't think either of us tried
Like
ever.
we were probably breaking even all
Yeah.
time on the trades,
Yeah,
but
it's more just like swapping players that we both like.
every once in a while I'll give you Puka Nakua for a Desmond Ritter, but
Yeah, yeah, that was tough. Well, I should have held on to that one anyway, so I kind of fumbled that too. So here we go. We both did.
life goes on.
We'll see. Drake London to the moon. But we're not here to talk about any of those guys, yeah, although
Nope.
they are in the NFC, like these guys here. But we're here to talk about the NFC East today. So if you've been following, I'm gonna take a drink of this water.
East is behind me right now.
Sorry, everyone. I just felt weird holding it, and then I kept talking. But um, if you've been with us lately, you will know that we are doing our divisional wrap up, or breakdowns of all the skill positions of every division. We have hit most of them. We've got the NFC East and then both the North divisions left. And so today we're going to get you kicked off with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm going to take this one. We all know, we all watched it. The Eagles fell apart towards the end of last season. It was kind of crazy. It didn't really hurt their like fantasy value really that much, I guess. Jalen Hurts finishes the QB2. And you think like, how did that happen? He only had 23 touchdowns, 3,800 yards. He was a turnover machine, 15 interceptions with 19 or sorry, 9 fumbles, which by the way, he's fumbled 9 times at least every year of his career, which is just kind of crazy. Pro Football Reference literally has it as 9 times every year. And then PFF has
Wow.
like one year where he had 10. So I don't know. But I just thought that was pretty crazy. But so you might ask, like, oh, how was he the QB2? Oh, well, 15 rushing touchdowns will help. That helps
Hmm.
you out. And so, when I start to think about the Eagles and fantasy and stuff, like Jalen Hurts is one of the first names, especially in the time of Superflex. And I kind of want to ask, like, is he getting 15 again? I mean, he's got double digits every year of his career that he's been the starter, so it's hard to argue that he won't. But they did just
Well,
bring in Saqoun Barkley.
mhm.
And sorry, I stepped on you. What's
Oh, well, I just keep thinking of Kelsey and like it's the tush push Jason Kelsey, you know? Like,
Yeah, like the offensive line has changed. Now we bring in a superstar running back we're paying $12.5 million to. Like, it's different. It's going to be different. Are we going to get 15? I say probably not, but he's probably still going to he's going to get his rushing. So I'm not super worried about him, but I do just think it should be pointed out. Um, we look at Kellen Moore, who is now the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. And in his offenses, their lead RB typically only gets like 55 to 65 targets. But when he had Austin Eckler last season, even with Austin Eckler's injury issues, he got 70. So I believe that Saqoun Barkley is definitely due for most of those. Like I don't see why he wouldn't be. There's nobody like, and I get it. You and I both like Kenneth Gainwell. We both like Will Shipley as like pass catching running backs, but I think they're more there just for when Barkley is injured, them to be able to throw out of the backfield if they need to, or not injured. Excuse me, tired. When he's
Mm.
tired, for them to be able to throw out of the backfield. Like it's I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be predominantly Barkley, and they're going to kind of run him into the ground almost. I mean, they brought him in, they're paying him 12.5 million, and he's older. Like you're going to get the work you want to get out of him, and he can handle the passing work and the rushing work. And this still, even with the departure of Jason Kelsey, is probably the best offensive line that he's ever played behind. Maybe not Jalen Hurts necessarily, but like I can't think of a better Giants offensive line that Barkley's ever played behind. So, I mean, yeah, even with the huge hit to Kelsey, I still think this might be the ultimate version of what they were trying to do with DeAndre Swift last year. And that could be really exciting. I think Barkley legitimately has top five RB potential in this season. Like, I don't think that that would be that crazy, honestly. Then when you look at the receiving room, so the Eagles had 563 passing attempts last season. 47% of those went to either AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, and I don't really see why that would change. Um,
Well, got to get
I
my Goddard some stuff,
I'm
man.
well, Gardner got 80 targets, and I think that's about kind of where he's due, 80 to 90, kind of right in there behind him. So like a huge chunk does go to Goddard, and then a decent chunk goes to the running room. And then there's just no reason at all to be interested in a wide receiver three in this offense. You just don't. You can try your hype yourself up about Anais Smith or Johnny Wilson if you want to, but the third most targeted wide receiver on the Eagles last year had 21 targets on the year.
Wow.
It's just so don't do it. Don't fall into that trap. In terms of AJ Brown and Devonta, though, I'm not worried about their opportunity. They're gonna get probably 47% of the targets around that. But I'm worried about that fact that they already both only scored 7 touchdowns last year. And now you're bringing in a guy in Barkley who's kind of a red zone guy, like that's what he wants to be. And then um yeah, like you kind of look at how they structure their offense. DeAndre Swift had 41 red zone touches compared to AJ Brown's 17 and Devonta Smith's 8 last season. So you're telling me that's going to get different with Barkley there? I don't think so. Like, and so now we're talking about the guys that already are kind of low touchdown numbers, and now we're taking even more red zone opportunities away from them potentially, or at least one of them. And I think it's Smith, unfortunately. I think it's the obvious choice. Like AJ Brown
Yeah.
commands way too much respect in the red zone with his skill set that I don't see Smith really getting these opportunities with Barkley and Goddard and Jalen Hurts all there to take away from him. And if Devonta Smith becomes an 1,000 yard, 4 touchdown receiver, he starts falling out of the realm of a viable wide receiver too. Because he already finished in the 20s last year. Like the early 20s, fine. But if he starts losing touchdowns, now we're talking like maybe not so great. Um, Yeah, I mean, I went out of order on my notes though. So I
Mm.
kind of wrapped up everything I wanted to, but I just really do think the Eagles are going to be in the end zone. It's primarily going to be Brown, Hurts, and Barkley. So I do think even Goddard is going to get a similar target share, but I think he suffers maybe less so, but from the same problem of as does Devonta Smith in terms of the red zone touches.
Yeah, yeah. When you get Barkley in there, that's, it's not I feel like it's not as bad as it used to be, where there's room for, a pass catching tight end and a pass catching running back. I haven't ran all the numbers on it
Mhm.
yet, but maybe I will. Um, But yeah, it feels like they're starting to take passes away from the wide receiver room finally, instead of just fighting each other. So I do feel like 80 is a solid number for Goddard, but yeah, any increase that he maybe do just off of raw talent is probably going to be delayed until he's not, with Saquon Barkley, which I don't know. Maybe they'll write it out for, until retirement. That's a bromance in the making. But yeah, there's no reason. I don't know. I guess I still think Kellen Moore is a good OC,
Hmm.
even though he's had some bumpy rides. Pretty pumped to see how this whole thing levels out. I'm with you though. Smith is probably I don't know. I've never been like a huge into Smith, but I do feel like his ceiling is a lot lower than like AJ Brown's. And,
Hmm.
if you try to think about him like you think about Jalen Waddle, like I can't really go there with him like I
Hmm.
can with Waddle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm
So,
100% with you.
but I mean, the Eagles, dude, that's a sweet squad.
It is a sweet squad. Very
Hopefully it doesn't
power
get weird there,
star
stay
heavy.
weird.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I can almost like I don't know. I did the Patriots last week,
Hmm.
and I was predicting that squad to stay weirdly uninteresting as far
Yeah.
as fantasy goes. And here I am, like stumbling into the Giants once again. We're doing this, so I I want to be optimistic. I want to figure something out that's exciting. So I'll just jump straight into him. I don't know. I don't know how to describe Danny Dimes, 2023. That was kind of wild. I didn't think he should have got that contract. He got a big dog contract, and it was
Hmm.
just them playing scared, I guess, with their money or with their future. And it didn't pan out too hot. He only played 6 games, and it was a rough 6 games, like 4 whole games, and 3 of those were less than 6 fantasy points in those games, including week one, which was half of a fantasy point. So
Hmm.
that's hot. You gotta love it. But that fourth full game that he played was like the quarterback one week too. So you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Hmm.
30-point week kind of coming out of nowhere. And then, yeah, he just missed the rest of the season,
Hmm.
obviously, because of ACL, and he's going to be coming back a little injured, and we'll see how it goes. But you got to just scratch 2022, even though there was like a lot of concerning activity. You got to go back
Hmm.
to 2022. We're
Hmm.
going back to 2022. Danny Dimes, baby, doing his thing, earning that contract. He's the quarterback 9,
Hmm.
right? So obviously you got to give him a little credit for that. But at the same time, you don't, man. Like you literally don't have to give him credit for it. Because if you're looking at the numbers, like it was 3,200 passing yards and
Hmm.
15 passing touchdowns. Like that's horrible. No
Hmm.
one's he's not propping up any like we want okay, you want a good quarterback on your fantasy squad, but what you really want is for your fantasy players to have a good quarterback on their actual NFL team.
Hmm.
And you're not getting that. You're not getting that with Danny Dimes here. You're not getting it. And it's ugly, man. I'm telling you, what are we looking at? You're looking at a couple of years here where like Darius Slayton has been leading the team in passing yards, like 4 of the past 5 years, and
Yeah.
those totals are like between 700 and 800 yards.
Hmm.
We haven't had a 1,000-yard wide receiver on this squad that wasn't named Odell in the past 10 years, and
Hmm.
so. Danny Times, you're not bringing it out. You're not bringing the joy. You're not bringing the happiness. So congratulations on being a top 10 quarterback 1 year of your season. You're at 1 season of your career. It was all on 700 rushing yards and seven
Hmm.
rushing touchdowns. And that was a year where Saquon was like the RB5. So
Hmm.
big time openings for dimes to do dime things when someone else is out there distracting the whole defense. So maybe you get excited about that coming off an injury. I don't know. I'm honestly I'm looking at Drew Lock's stats and I'm like, how is this guy like? How do you describe him as I don't know, like better than Daniel Jones, yet still not rosterable? I don't know where you go with Drew Lock, but
Yeah.
he could make some splashes, especially if I don't know, Daniel Jones is slow at all with the injuries, but I'm moving on. I'm moving on. The pass throwers for the New York Giants are Daniel Jones and Drew Lock. And if you don't know what that means, then I'm sorry. You have some
Hmm.
disappointment coming your way. Deal with it. You'll be all right. I'm glad you did the birds, the Eagles first, because we got to talk about the void here that
Hmm.
Saquon leaves for the squad. It's real, it's a serious situation. It's about 250 carries, and it's about 60 targets. That's the pretty much the whole offense. You know what I mean? If you
Hmm.
do the math, it's a considerable chunk. And then you've got Devin Singletary, man. So that's cool. We like Singletary. He's had a checkered past, and now the guy, the OC that drafted him to the Bills, is the head coach with the Giants, Brian Dable, and he
Hmm.
brings him in to take over the Saquon role. And I guess I'm predicting a pretty decent year. Um, it's just going to be whatever this team can muster as like an offensive unit. You can't really expect Devin Singletary to like outshine the rest of the squad to produce.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we're talking about a team who last year was 26th in pass attempts and 31 in pass yards, and then 16 in rush attempts, 16th in rush yards, 30th in scoring, and only put together a 6-win season. So the only optimism there is a moderately active run game with
Hmm.
moderately mediocre results. And I've said some good stats about Singletary over the offseason, like things like he is the 19th best PFF graded rusher of guys with over 100 carries. And he was up there with the top guys when it comes to 10 plus yard carries.
Hmm.
Um, and he's pretty aggressive, like breakaway runs, doing pretty good stuff as far as like efficiency and potency, but he's not really a 250 carry guy. He's never really gotten there. Especially like playing with Brian Dable, he never even sniffed 200 carries. So, imagining he's going to step into a role where it can absorb that whole workload, I think it's kind of a stretch. So it gets me a little bit excited when you look at like a guy like Tyrone Tracy, who's
Hmm.
coming in from Purdue. It's kind of a wild card. This whole team is kind of a mystery to me, but I think he does have a good chance to get some touches. I mean, if you're talking maybe Singletary gets 200, there's probably another 80 to 100 carries just for Tracy. So if he can kind of step up and have some success, and he's a wide receiver convert, so if he can be active as a catcher out of the backfield, that could really uh, take off for him. So keeping a blind eye on that. This whole squad, I mean, I'm really alluding to the fact that I'm not really pumped about anybody. I've got high hopes. I'm hoping, right, for Singletary to be effective. But really the only thing that I'm about, like that I'm seriously into is it's gonna be that Malik Neighbors, man. And I've already kind of told you this bleak Ooh, this bleak outlook with the past couple of years, no one over 800 yards. Get Kenny Galladay led this team with like 580 yards one year. It's just like the saddest things you've ever
Had to
heard.
pay him.
Yeah, yeah, saddest stuff you've ever seen in your life. So, I'm really just looking for him to pick up like right where he left off. He comes in with that skill set that's pretty spectacular. We saw him doing unreal stuff And I think that he has a kind of skill set that is, I want to say it's like quarterback proof.
Hmm.
It's hard for me to believe that when I look at the squad, but he had those catch and runs. He was playing good on the outside. He was doing crazy things after the catch, just like making things look easy, making things happen. And
Hmm.
so I think we're gonna get it. I think we're gonna get that 1,000 yard receiver. I think it's it's gonna be a good year, man. I'm just saying. So I don't really, with neighbors, I want him to be successful because I keep wanting to put like a Dunze ahead of him just because of how crummy this situation is. And I want him to just like give me something about the Giants to be excited about. So I'm pumped about neighbors. And then that segues me into like what else is going on with the squad. I can tell you that like Darius Slayton's still on the squad, and I think he's gonna be okay. I don't know how Wandale Robinson it's still like a listed starter. My thing is Jalen Hyatt, right? I do like Jalen Hyatt. I've liked him out of
Always have.
Tennessee. And yeah, Biletnikoff Award winner, guys. That they don't just give those to James Washington's. You got to really earn it. Um, but no, the way this is stacked up is if they can get the ball rolling, if they can make this offense alive, have a pulse. He almost like profiles as a guy who could complement in a Brian Thomas Jr. type role if neighbors can be the underneath serious dude. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a little different. I think Brian Thomas has more ability than Jalen Hyatt, but I do think Jalen Hyatt can be that deep streaker that Thomas was doing to kind of be the 1-2 with neighbors at LSU. So a little bit excited about that. But the tight end room, dude, like I'm over it. I'm just gonna say like there's some guys in this tight end room. Maybe Theo Johnson will do something.
there's a guy named
I
Lawrence
know,
Cage.
yeah, that's Daniel Bellinger. Like, well, I think three people were excited about him for half a minute, and then I looked
Yeah.
at his stats, and it was like, no, like he had like a 4 target game, and we all got
We
fucking
got hyped.
hyped. Yeah, it
And
was
then he
scary.
what
So
caved in his eye socket or whatever. Jesus.
yeah. It was bad. So I don't know. So I'm looking at, do you know Daniel Jones in that 2022 season, man? It was just such an outlier to me. Did you
Mm.
know that was their only playoff win since they won the Super Bowl in 2011?
Oh
Was that
wow.
Vikings wild card win?
Damn.
Yeah. So give me a reason to be excited about this team that's not Malik Neighbors. Can't do it. It's
I
Malik Neighbors.
yeah, I can't. Definitely can't do it. I mean, I don't understand how this thinking. I've been seeing this on online lately, this thinking that Malik Neighbors is going to have a bad rookie season because of the Giants, and like I've even seen somebody say that it was a bold take, even labeled as a bold take, but that Wandale Robinson will have more
Oh
catches or
my God.
something,
What?
which is just hey, he labeled it bold, so I mean that's fair. But I don't understand that thing at all. Malik Neighbors is going to command all the targets in the world, and he's going to lead them in catches and yards and touchdowns, I imagine. Um, I'll stand by the fact that Malik Neighbors is the most talented player on the Giants offense from
Oh,
the day he steps on the field. Like
no doubt.
it's not, and yeah, it's not even a hill I have to really die on because there's going to be like 50 million people on that hill with me.
Yeah, you're gonna
Um,
be real estate's high on that hill.
yeah, but. Yeah, so I do. I think he's going to get all the targets in the world. They won't be good targets, but they'll be his targets. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And yeah, I'm just not I'm with you on the Daniel Jones train. Like I don't understand how he got paid. I don't think he has the skill set to take advantage. That's my problem with anybody else on the Giants. It's not that like, okay, maybe like you're right, Jalen Hyatt can fit into that role, but Daniel Jones can't take advantage of that role.
Right.
So anybody other than Neighbors, and Neighbors is gonna have to do a lot of this himself, I imagine. It's gonna be a lot of underneath stuff. It's gonna be a lot of like, hey, catch this wide receiver screen and make magic happen. And
Yeah.
then and that's it. And yeah, I'm with you. The tight end room, like that's I don't want multiple. or wanted slices of like bad offenses. That's my like I know that's not like a crazy take or anything, but like that's what I stand by. If I think an offense is going to be bad, why would I want anything other than possibly the superstar on that offense? Like, and that's where I'm at with the Giants. I think the Giants are going to be pretty bad. Their defense could probably keep them in some games, and maybe if Daniel Jones is healthy, it's better than Ben DiNucci running
Yeah.
around, I suppose. But I worry about specifically his fantasy value if he's coming off an ACL and feels ginger on running. Because that, like you mentioned, 700 yards, 7 touchdowns made up a bulk of what got him that top 10 season. And so if that's gone and he doesn't want to run as much anymore, then what is he? Like, what does
Nothing.
he give you?
Oh, I mean,
Exactly, nothing. Like, he doesn't give you anything that any other quarterback off the street that's an NFL caliber couldn't give you, in my opinion. Um,
yeah, it's on Malik Neighbors, and
yeah,
I don't think we're gonna be talking about Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback for the Giants next year. So I
I
guess
don't
we
think
just got
so
to get it
either.
through this last one.
Yeah, I don't. Well, hopefully we'll make it and hopefully it doesn't ruin neighbors too much. But on to brighter stories with the Washington Commanders and their new
Yeah,
ownership and their shiny new rookie quarterback. I
the
said it a few
Twins.
weeks ago, when talking about um Bo Nix and how if he didn't start coming out of the season, that would be really bad red flags. Um, More so, I feel that with Jayden Daniels. Like if he doesn't come out as the starter, either he couldn't beat out Marcus Mariota, which wouldn't be good, or
It's rough.
this coaching staff is on that rookie has to earn his spot train, which just does not lead me to hopes for this coaching staff. And I'm sorry, this coaching staff feels weird to me. It feels like the rejects that
Mm,
like the Commanders could get, like Dan Quinn and
yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury. Like those are your
No.
two. I may yeah, okay, so it's not just me apparently, but like so
Well,
that
I mean, it's like where's Ben Johnson when you need him, you know?
yeah, like what's going on? Like it's basically everybody that we really wanted 2 years ago. Let's go be on the Commanders now. So I don't know, man. Like we'll see how it goes. But obviously Jayden Daniels was electric in his last season at LSU, won the Heisman. Can it translate
Yes.
over? He does have weapons at his disposal. He does. Scary Terry, Terry McLaurin is continually underrated. I
Damn,
hope that
another
he,
jersey
yeah,
fail.
another jersey that you have.
Fuck.
Um, I hope he finally kind of gets the QB play that I that he deserves. And seemingly this would be awesome also for like Jahan Dotson fans like me, especially with Curtis Samuel going out the door, and no longer being a threat to those kind of slot targets. However, if you look at Cliff Kingsbury specifically being paid with Jayden Daniels, you imagine that he's going to want to take advantage of that rushing ability like he tried a lot to do with Kyler Murray. Um, so to me, it's unlikely that the Commanders finish with the most passing attempts in the league like they did last season because they're going to run it a lot more. Kingsbury's offenses while in Arizona typically finished like in the teens for passing attempts, except for his last season where they finished fourth. And you imagine that was him trying to bail himself out of getting fired, out of losing a lot of games. And Murray was also hurt that year. So I imagine that a Cliff Kingsbury offense is probably going to end up in the teens in passing attempts this season. So that's, one reason that I'm starting to get worried about the pass catchers in the Commanders, at least a little bit. And then you bring in a guy like Austin Eckler, not to be the bell cow, to specifically be a passing specialist and red zone specialist. So now targets and red zone attempts are starting to decrease for these guys, which is scary. Um, so what I'm trying to say is that I'm concerned about Jahan Dotson. I want him to be great. I loved him coming out of college. He was like, I was so pumped that he was a first round pick. And then he came out hot his rookie season. But his metrics NFL metrics, they just really scare me. 1.03 career yards per route run with
Oof.
less than a yard last season is just tough. He's only forced three missed tackles in the NFL, which is, I mean, I know that like he wasn't like one of these guys in college breaking ankles or anything like that. He's more of a smooth route runner with great hands, but like, I don't know. That's just still concerning to me. Samuel leaving, like I mentioned, does open the door and it gives Dotson a chance to work more out of the slot, which I think is his more natural position in the NFL. Um, but I still think it's risky to bet on him right now. I have him in a couple leagues and I'm betting on him because I do like Jayden Daniels, but it's also a new coaching staff who just drafted Luke McCaffrey, who's not a guy I'm super high on, but like, are they going to phase out somebody like Jahan Dotson if he doesn't start off sprinting? You know what I mean? Maybe they want to make this offense and this team more theirs. I just don't think there are going to be enough targets to feed like multiple different fantasy options for the Commanders yet. Obviously Jayden Daniels I'm high on, but Terry McLaurin is one that he'll be able to feed. And then I think Eckler and Brian Robinson, that combination of those guys could be another. And I think there's room for maybe one more guy to be fantasy relevant on this offense. Is it Dotson or is it Ertz, with whom Cliff Kingsbury is super familiar with, whose highest target total with the Cardinals was 81, and that was Ertz. He doesn't Cliff Kingsbury doesn't really target tight ends much unless it's Zach Ertz, apparently. One season he finished the year with 25 targets for Dan Arnold at tight
Huh.
end, and basically any other tight end not named Zach Ertz has not gotten targets in a Cliff Kingsbury offense in the NFL. Granted, that was his starter, so it makes sense. But what I'm saying is something feels weird to me betting on Ertz or even Ben Sinnott for that matter. I That's a really popular pick, and I like the pick it for the future, but for this season, I just think to bet on either of those to be a consistent tight end for you is risky business. Especially because all of this is being done by a behind a fairly uninspiring offensive line. Like they changed it, they did some things, but meh. I don't know. Like it doesn't really look any better. It just looks different. Um, and I'll finish up here. I've been talking about Cliff Kingsbury a ton in this. I think it's because of the offensive coordinators. He's going to have a lot more control than some of these other guys, with Dan Quinn being the head coach and a defensive-minded guy at that. But doesn't Brian Robinson kind of remind you of James Conner? Like,
Yeah, yeah, I'll give you that.
like kind of. And James Conner is a guy who Kingsbury brought to like fantasy relevance and made me look really silly for a lot of years.
Oh yeah, he
Um,
did.
but the problem is there's still the Eckler factor. Like I would be super in on Brian Robinson actually because of that style of offense. But Eckler, Connor's awesomeness was getting a lot of touchdowns. And now
Yeah,
Eckler is not playing much between the 20s to me. He's playing in the red zone and on passing downs. And I'm standing by that. I don't think they're going to hot
really,
swap him and Brian Robinson. What's up?
really. You give Eckler the goal line work now.
Well, the red zone work, maybe not
Oh
the
yeah,
goal
sure,
line
sure.
work, but the red
Right.
zone overall work. That's what he does. He has a nose for the end zone, in my opinion. And I don't see him. And so like does and maybe I'm wrong, but like does Brian Robinson become like this guy that's getting all these yardage and then not getting touchdowns? Because then I'm not interested in him. And are they basically just gonna both phase each other out to being like not that relevant? Or does Jayden Daniels throw the running back enough? It doesn't really seem like his play style with a lot of deep passes in college. I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel about this Commanders offense. um, I have high hopes for it. I like a lot of these players, but I'm a little skeptical of the coaching staff. I'm a little skeptical of just kind of the position group, like the Austin or the Eckler and the Brian Robinson factor. I think they could complement each other pretty well, but I also think it could go weird in terms of fantasy. Um, I don't know, man. What are you thinking?
Well, I hear the skepticism in your analysis, and I think I disagree on a couple of things
Hmm.
when it comes to Washington. First of all, the Eckler thing. Um, yes, Eckler's awesome, and he's proven that he's can be used in the red zone, and he definitely can get in the end zone. Um, but to me, I feel like Brian Robinson still profiles as like the future of this team, not like a bell cow, but as a lead back. You know what I mean? Kind of
Hmm.
the James Robinson style. But or James Connor.
Connor.
Man, there's too many James. I'm out of the James running back game, obviously. Um, so I think Austin Eckler to me really does come in as like a change of pace kind of guy. But that could easily be the red zone package too, as just like a threat. Because I do like that inside the 20s for Eckler, but I think that we'll be seeing a lot of Brian Robinson like production. And I guess what you just said was that he's going to have a lot of yards and not a lot of touchdowns. So maybe I'm agreeing with you. But I do think there's potential for him to fight off Eckler and like the traditional, like everything's going well
Hmm.
offense, whereas Eckler's going to be your like secret weapon, deploy, break glass in case of emergency type usage.
Hmm.
So I look forward to that. And then the Jahan dude, I mean, I get it, and Luke McCaffrey and all that, but
Hmm.
like I don't know, Luke McCaffrey to me seems just like a Gabe Davis type wideout.
Yeah.
And Gabe Davis is never like buried in targets, and there's 91 up there for grabs with the Curtis Samuel, and that's I mean that's assuming that Eckler parks it at like 60 targets off of Gibson, and that Logan Thomas was 80 targets last year. That's a pretty good
Hmm.
chunk. I think that the tight end room can share that, and be happy. So if you're telling me, McCaffrey comes in and gets like 60 targets and we can push Jahan up to 100, I think that's doable.
That'd be
I've got
awesome.
faith in that right there.
Okay.
He is talented and he's done it in the NFL. It's not still projecting college.
Hmm.
He's been a useful guy. He's just, yeah, he's running routes for no reason, apparently, according to
Hmm.
the stats, but
Hmm.
I like him, man. I think you should keep your chin up on the Jahan front
Okay.
for
Well,
sure.
that's good to hear, man, because he was definitely a draft crush for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, keep it alive. But I'll be really interested to see, like you're saying, Cliff Kingsbury. Um, I think I don't know. He feels like the kind of guy you shouldn't count out, even though, man, that was rough in the desert for a
Hmm.
couple of years. Uh, Maybe not being a head coach can give him the space he needs to be successful without having to overdo it,
Hmm.
and he kind of messed it up. So I don't know. Give him a nice rookie quarterback and a old veteran head coach, and maybe the magic will just pop out. So I don't know. I'm pumped about them. They did have the most pass attempts in the whole league last year, and I know it was a different squad, and it was the whole Sam Howell thing,
Hmm.
and that's over. But they do have a superior gunslinger in the pocket. Like it could be. I mean, they could just say, let's just do it, like
I mean,
let's see some fireworks and
yeah.
come what may. So I'm excited. I'm always excited about them. But another team, hey, that people may be excited about. I guess personally, guess I'm excited about it. The Cowboys are fun, like fun to hate, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm.
But I couldn't just get up here and do like a stand-up trash in Dallas routine. Sounds like fun, but I save it for Taysom Hill.
Hmm.
Uh, but all right, so we got the Dallas squad. I think we all are pretty familiar with what went down last year. A pretty good season, honestly. There 12 wins, most points scored of any NFL team, and the eighth most passing attempts equaled the third most passing yards. 14th most rushing attempts were the 14th most.
Hmm.
rushing yards, and that's nice.
Efficient.
Yeah, yeah, that's the both my teams were right there on the rushing, 16 and 16 for the Giants. So, um, yeah, you got Dak, dude. Dak came out and he lit it up. He had a great
Hmm.
season and ended up as the quarterback three, which I thought was cool. I
Hmm.
know we've talked about this a few times over the last couple of years, but he got him back up. He got himself back up to like the mid 50s on the rush attempts for the first time since the big injury a couple of years back. So that's good to see him getting back in the dual threat esque kind of game.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. He didn't really have any rushing touchdowns to speak of. He had two, but you know, back in the day before the injury, he was getting the six and
Hmm.
in that
Hmm.
number range. So I'd like to see that come back. And I think that like really Dak has that ability to improve in that area this year
Hmm.
because the running back room is just like asking him to participate when you're bringing in Ezekiel Elliott and I mean nothing else honestly, so
Hmm.
it's a little shoddy if you ask
Yeah.
me. But things are strange with what happened. Like Tony Pollard's out of town and
Hmm.
he had 60 red zone rush attempts last year, which was second most in the league after Christian McCaffrey, who had 63. So
Hmm.
that's a serious number. That's a serious amount of red zone utilization that needs to be passed around. And Zeke, he hit that number in like 2019, but he's really like a 35-40 red zone attempt guy.
Hmm.
And while Dak has never been over 20 on the red zone rush attempts, I feel like I'm asking you personally, Dak, to step up as a rusher at the goal line because I mean, you could solidify yourself. You could be like making people say Josh Allen who, because you're already doing it through the air. You got your greatest weapon out there with CD Lamb.
Hmm.
He's a superstar in the making, obviously. But 36 passing touchdowns that led the league last year. So it's on for Dak. He was out there crushing it. He had six top three weeks as a quarterback and only a couple where it was like outside, low double digits, which you guys are going to get every now and again. So I don't know. So for me, Dak, I was in, I was out, I was back and forth.
Hmm.
But like he seems like a superstar and they kind of have things in a nice gear right now. So whatever McCarthy, like I guess Kellen Moore was the problem. Get over it. We don't care anymore to win a playoff game, and then come talk to me. So that is what it is. Um, but yeah, I'm telling you, it's a little awkward that Zeke is now the guy here because there's a lot going on with Tony Pollard, man. Like 250 carries, he had 1,000 yards,
Hmm.
67 targets. That's a bunch of work. That's like way too much work for Zeke. He's too old for this stuff, you know what I mean? Not to pull out the lethal weapon quotes, but the dude's 29 now.
Hmm.
He's had his fair share of workhorse seasons. And I don't really think it's time to ride him that hard. He's coming off of a like a timeshare type split with
Hmm.
Rolandre where he did get 180 carries, but it's like 3.5 yards per carry. It's low, only five total touchdowns all purpose.
Hmm.
So he's not exactly like the savior, but the way this is set up, and if he can be like that pass catching running back that he has been even last year, 65 targets, that's the same, number as Pollard, really. So if he can step into that receiving back role and keep something going on the ground and some of that red zone usage his way, I think, call me crazy, dude, but he's got like a top 25 year left in the tank. He was the running back 30 last year. So we can see it. I can see it. We can all see it coming. No one's standing in his way. You got, like I said, Rico Dwaddle and Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah.
And I guess like people are saying the name Royce Freeman still. Personally, I'm not. I've just put it out there because I heard someone else say it. But yeah, these guys guaranteed to collectively contribute at least like 200 carries, I would say.
Hmm.
So who knows if Zeke is like whatever hurt or just like eats too much in Cabo or whatever happens, he could come out. All right, one of these guys could pop off and like, prove themselves to be the future of the Cowboys. But like this running back room is one that I'm waiting for like the 2025 draft class to get
Hmm.
in on. So let's see. We all
Oh,
wanted
that's
Jonathan
spicy.
Brooks to come in and do the business here. That didn't happen. So
Hmm.
good on them. But the thing is CD Lamb, man. Like, what are we even talking about? CD
Hmm.
Lamb was outrageous this past year. He was the wide receiver one, just barely getting beat out on the yardage by Tyreek. But he's getting drowned in massive workload. Like the Cowboys haven't ever found a viable wide receiver two since Amari Cooper pieced out.
Hmm.
And so I'm telling you now, CD Lamb, baby. Marvin Harrison Sr., Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, and CD Lamb. CD Lamb will become the fourth NFL wide receiver to have a 200 plus target season in
Oh, wow.
2024.
Let's go. I love
Yeah,
that.
it's going to happen, man. Because, I mean, he got real close. What, he's like 180 last year. So
Hmm.
it's coming down. It's coming down the pipe because they haven't got anybody to play with them.
Nope.
Um, okay, yeah, CeeDee Lamb's awesome. Whatever, he kicks ass. The thing with him is that he's got such versatility. Like he doesn't have a lot of sticky stats, but he does everything well, and he takes what the defense gives him, and he's extremely reliable. So he's going to make something happen. Like we've all seen, we know who CD Lamb is. Like
Hmm.
if you got him on your fantasy squad, you're doing great. And if someone's trying to trade for him, like you need to just block that person or unfriend them in actual life, like kick them out of your family or whatever you need to do to not have to interact with that person like that. But it comes down to like Brandon Cooks is on the squad, and after having the wide receiver 38 year last year. Um, I don't know. I'm with it on Cooks a little bit. It was kind of a scary year for him because he'd started off extremely slow. Like the first 4 weeks, he basically did nothing
Hmm.
on this team. And then he turned it on a little bit and he ended up with 8 touchdowns, which like doesn't sound like a crazy awesome number, but it's actually tied with a whole bunch of guys as like the eighth highest number for pass catchers. So that's not bad. Only 7 guys are catching more touchdowns than him. So
Hmm.
that's got some kind of traction for the future. Um, but yeah, there were some pop games, some drop games. Took them a while to get going, but there's no one else on the squad that's stepping up. They didn't really bring up anybody. And I don't know, there's like, yeah, Jalen Tolbert.
Holmert.
Yeah, he's on the squad if you get
Hmm.
excited about him.
Ryan
Uh,
Flournoy.
yeah, I'd say Flournoy is the guy that I would probably throw my coins in that wishing well because the greatest unknown Senior Bowl
Hmm.
champion, we've never seen that in Dallas ever. Jalen Tolbert or Simi Fehoko or any of those guys. But it's really comes down to Jake Ferguson. I
Hmm.
mean, since Amari left, the number two guy in targets on the list has always been a tight end. These guys are getting triple digit numbers. I thought it was Dalton Schultz. Like I thought he was supremely talented. He came in and just did the damn thing. And when he left, I was like, hey, it's over. Luke Schoonmaker's going to come in here and make something happen. But no, Jake Ferguson comes in and he's killing it. And he earned a big chunk of the workload through, big yak numbers. The only guys that he was trailing in total yak numbers were Njoku, Kelsey, Kittle, and Ingram. So he's a real
Damn.
guy.
Hmm.
He's going to come in there and continue that success. And honestly, there's nothing on this passing game at any level that it's going to disrupt the structure that they had last year. And Schottenheimer's back, and McCarthy's still, McCarthy,
Hmm.
and they're still chasing big dreams. So um, I assume they're going to have to cover for the defense a little more than they did last year. They got really hooked up by the defense and let them kind of run wild.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, between that 200 target season for CD Lamb and Jake Ferguson hitting home runs. I think the rest is going to be, Dak cashing in fantasy wise and Zeke just like surprising us or, surprisingly disappointing to me, I guess.
Yeah, I really don't know how to feel. The Cowboys are just weird. Like that wide receiver two spot is super dangerous for the offense on this
Yeah,
consistency.
anything bad happens, it's over.
Yeah, it's a wrap. But I mean, McCarthy's used to targeting one guy over and over again. I mean, he did it with Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, you could argue, Greg Jennings even. Like, I haven't pulled those numbers up, so don't come at me if they're not quite what I say. But yeah, like this offense is just it's gotta be it's CD or nothing really. And then Jake Ferguson is pretty underrated, I think, and could be a sneaky tight end for you to kind of go out and grab um, in redrafts or like if you are doing a startup or even try to trade for him. But yeah, other than that, there's not a lot to love here. Like I'm not interested in the running back room at all, really. Like Zeke is probably going to have some games where it's fun to see see him back in a Cowboys uniform. But I don't know. I'm not interested in handcuffing Dowdle or Deuce Vaughn. And then the wide receiver too, like you mentioned, Brandon Cooks was 8 touchdowns. It's pretty good, but like not worth it fantasy wise. I mean it is like if he had the yardage to kind of go with it or the consistency for it. But I mean you just gotta if you have CD Lamb, you're good. And other than that, I'd be skeptical of the Cowboys offense except Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, for sure.
So
So, yeah,
not a
weak.
lot. They didn't change. They didn't change. Them and the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles added Barkley, which was huge, but other than that, they didn't really change that much. And the Cowboys getting Zeke back is not a lot.
Yeah, that doesn't count. The 6 round
Yeah.
wideout and Zeke. Like they
Yeah.
should have never let Zeke go. I mean, shit.
Yeah.
What were they even doing? I mean,
It was
money,
weird.
money, money, but
Money, money, money.
gotta do what you gotta do.
But there you have it. So the NFC East is wrapped up. So next week we're going to be hitting our last AFC division with the AFC North. But until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Stay awesome. Catch you later.
I took a lease out on your heart.